I'm doing the 90s Mixtape BookTube Tag, and I was tagged by Mix Hunter Mass, so thank you. You're probably wondering why I'm standing so far back from the camera, and it's because I have a huge pile of books right here that I'm going to talk about. So yeah, let's get started. On second thought, I changed my mind. Standing that far back from the camera was driving me crazy. I can't see myself because I'm not wearing my glasses. So I'm squished here with my books. But anyways, as the title suggests, the 90s Mixtape BookTube Tag features songs that came out in the 90s. And I was born in 1992, so I remember the 90s as a small child, and I definitely remember most of these songs, which I have written down. So, I'm gonna start. So, the first one is Friday I'm in Love by The Cure. And I love that song. I listened to it so much in high school. I did not know that The Cure was a thing when I was a child, but no tangents. I can't make this video super long. So then, Friday I'm in Love by The Cure, a book that I have a love-hate relationship with. I mean, hate is a strong word. I can't think of a book that I have like a love-hate relationship with, but there are books that I love for the most part, but then there's something about them that like irks me. Like, for example, Children of Blood and Bone. I love this book, it's so precious to me, but the romantic subplot is really annoying. So this is, I guess, a love-annoying relationship. Yeah, this whole thing between, I don't want to say any spoilers if you haven't read it, but the romantic subplot is really annoying to me. So the next song is Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana, another song that I'm quite fond of. And I decided to choose Bloodchild and Other Stories by Octavia Butler, specifically the short story Bloodchild, because I couldn't really think of any other coming-of-age stories. But in this one, it's about a boy, and I don't really want to give too much away, but basically when Butler wrote the short story, she was contemplating on what would happen if like we were in like a dystopian situation with aliens and men could get pregnant. The next song is Criminal by Fiona Apple, which I have not read. I didn't really listen to Fiona Apple as a child. I didn't know who she was. But for this one, I would have to talk about like a true crime, but I don't read true crime. I've read one, and that was In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. I read that in grad school, and that book messed me up for a couple days. I think it especially like messed me up because like the criminals are like super humanized, and even like my professor, she's a strong believer in like showing faces, like the authors who wrote the book, and then since this was a true crime, she showed us what the people in the book really looked like, and I think that kind of made it stick with me a little longer. Next is Season of the Abyss by Slayer, which I also didn't listen to as a child because I didn't really start listening to that kind of music until I was like in middle school / a teenager. But for this one, it would be a dark book or a book with dark themes, which I mean can extend to a lot of things. But the one that I chose was where'd it go? This monstrosity. The whole trilogy is in this, the Abhorsen Chronicles by Garth Nix. And I chose Sabriel because she's a a necromancer, and she's an abortion, which means that she's like a super special necromancer. And there's a lot of death. There are a lot of dead things walking. She goes into death quite often. Sometimes she brings things out of death, and sometimes she sends things into death. And yeah, safe to say those are some dark themes. Alright, the next one is Sabotage by the Beastie Boys, another song that I like, and this is actually a song that I did hear as a child because my mom liked the Beastie Boys. I don't know if my dad did, but I know my mom did. And I chose, I'm sorry about like the sticker, when I bought it for grad school, like there was a huge ugly sticker right here and I tried to take it off. But this is Who Will Run the Frog Hospital by Lori Moore. This is supposed to be a protagonist who sabotages themselves. And the protagonist of this novel, she sabotages herself trying, I guess, to protect her best friend. How do I say this without spoilers? Her best friend gets in a sticky situation and she has to start, the protagonist has to start like stealing money, and then things just kind of spiral from there. Next is A Book That Lingered With You. Wait, what's the song? Linger by the Cranberries, which is another song that I haven't heard, and I don't think I've heard anything by the Cranberries, but A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. This is another book that I hold near and dear to my heart. And I've read it twice, and I suspect I'll read it a third time at some point in the future. But this, when I finished reading this, the first time I finished reading this, like for weeks afterward, I just could not stop thinking about this book. And I was like, and anytime someone said, you know, for the time being, blah, 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 I'm like, for the time being. I mean, I don't know why I had this sort of reaction to this book, because it's not like it's like a super feelsy, feel-good book. Quite the opposite. Sometimes it made me really fucking sad, but yeah, this is the book that lingered with me the most, I think, or one of them. Another one is another book I read in grad school, was the first autobiography of Frederick Douglass. If you haven't, it's a quick read. If you haven't read it, just read it. Like, Frederick Douglass was a grade A badass. Alright, so the next one is Wonderwall by Oasis, and who doesn't know that song? This one is family members who hate each other. And I was like, what have I read? And I mean, I have read the Crazy Rich Asians trilogy, and I don't want to say that they like hate each other, but I mean, when things go down, Nick definitely feels something akin to hate toward his grandma and his mother. Like, I don't think, since they're family, I don't think he actually truly hates them, but he doesn't like them for a long time. Alright, the next one is Baby One More Time by Britney Spears, which, I mean, who also doesn't know that song? This one is a book that you keep coming to again and again, and for me, it's Oryx and Crake. I have read this book 3 times. I have read it in school, I want to say undergrad, and then I read it again in grad school when I kind of begged the department chair to do a Margaret Atwood independent study with me. So that was the second time, and then the third time I read it was just last month. So I know there are 2 other books that come after this, and I don't think they're anywhere near as good. They don't come anywhere near the mastery of this book, I don't think. And I think that this is a good standalone, I think. I was perfectly fine thinking that this was its own book, and then I figured out that there were 2 other books that came after this, which I read, and they were more or less enjoyable. I mean, I don't hate them, but this is the one that I keep coming back to. And then the last one is Poison by Belle Biv DeVoe. another song that I really, really like. And if I were to ever dance hip hop, that would be one of the first songs I dance to because it's such a bop. But anyways, this one is a book that has a toxic relationship, and I mean, I could just say Lolita. But first of all, I have no idea where it is. I gathered all my books, and I know I featured that book in the movie before, or in a video before, and I don't really know where I put it. So here is Who Will Run the Frog Hospital again. And so the things that happen that causes the protagonist to sabotage herself, they happen because her best friend gets into a more or less toxic relationship. Like, you can tell there's not a lot of communication going there, and her best friend is suffering because of it, but she doesn't really want to talk about it. So yeah, that's all of them. The 90s Mixtape BookTube Tag, and I don't really tag anyone in particular, so if you want to do it, and then let me know in the comments or whatever, and then I'll come watch it. So yeah, short and sweet. Bye. Wait, I found it. I was picking up all of the books, and then Lolita was just sitting there at the bottom of all the books. Look, I didn't even use the King Killer Chronicles. I don't even know why I dug them out.